Hey guys, Rich here from BrickScene. We are at the Bloks collection in Auckland, New Zealand, and I am lucky enough to be speaking to the one and only Huw Millington, or Huw from Brickset. How are you?
Hello.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Hope you've been looked after down here in New Zealand.
I certainly have.
You enjoying your holiday?
Yes, I've been here a day, but so far so good.
Excellent, excellent. So let's take you back to, obviously you were into Lego as a kid.
Yes,
Themes, any particular themes that sort of stuck out to you as a kid?
Well, when I was a kid, it was before the minifig era.
Hey,
So it was the Legoland branded sets that one or two here on the shelf behind us. The windmill, for example, looks familiar. That sort of set was my era.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
And through the years, you've had a dark age. Obviously, we all have our dark ages.
Quite a long one, actually. Yes, I did. Yes.
But you came back into it, and I was like I said, I was watching your interviews. You came back into the 90s. What sort of sets brought you out? What was it that inspired you to come out in the 90s and get into it?
Well, I suppose you could say it was my childhood sets again. I got them out the loft when my daughter was 2 years old. She was too young for it, of course, but just having it there and having it out again encouraged me to look at the Lego shop, a shelf when we were in toy shops looking for kids stuff, and started picking up Technic sets again around the mid-90s.
Yeah, Technic stuff was pretty cool around that time, actually.
It was, yes.
And of course, we get on to Brickset. What made you sort of take it to that next level and decide, look, I'm gonna put something out there for the public to use?
Well, again, that was the mid-90s when the internet was in its infancy. There were one or two other Lego resources out there, but none of them had the information that I wanted, which was about promotional sets and interesting stuff that you couldn't buy in the toy shops locally, but you could find in Shell petrol stations or Blockbuster Video or whatever it might be. They used to have lots of promotions with other companies at that time. So yes, there was no information out there recording all that, so I thought I'd put a database together, which initially was just a list on a on a web page in those days. And
it was an access database, was it? You were using it first, if I read rightly.
Right, yes, it was. Yes. So and it's just grown up from there really over the years.
And there's been a few iterations, a few versions of the website, and if I read rightly, the last version you came out in 2014.
Exactly. Yes, you've done your homework.
I have. Well, I thought, like I said, I don't want to cross too much of the same ground. A lot of people have done before, but I came out of my dark age in that sort of 2014, 2015, and I must admit, the first thing that I came across was Brickset. I was starting to sort of catalogue my stuff, and I was thinking, how can I do this? And then I came across something that someone had already done, and
Right. Yes.
Thank you. But what inspired you to sort of take it to that next level where you're doing the news, the reviews, and of course allowing us to catalogue our things and create want lists and all that,
That was probably the biggest change we made. I suppose that was the early 2000s, combining the database with people's collections obviously opened up a whole level of functionality which encouraged people to use it, as you say, for recording their own collection. And yes, it's just been a growth of features added over the years. That was probably the first one. People review sets, I suppose that was the next thing we added, and then became more of a news site that was tacked on perhaps fairly late on the day when blogging became popular in the sort of late 90s or early 2000s, whenever it was. And it's just sort of incrementally grown, I suppose, with the functionality. So
it's become a bit of a hub. You can go there and you can see reviews from nearly anyone. There's the link to the the external reviews. I was looking at that. I was looking at obviously you've got the information on the sets. It's just that's great. But what's next? Is there something next for it? Is there plans? Is there anything you can share, of course? But what's next
keep
for
it up to date and relevant, really. That's the main thing there. People come to visit the database, so it's important that we keep that up to date. And as you say, we are a hub. We like to be that sort of centre, if you like, where you can get information about anything or links to look at it elsewhere. So that's that's what we aim to do.
Now, and from a personal point of view, what about Lego or the themes, the sets, if you like, what's inspiring you at the moment? What's keeping you going with Lego at the moment?
I tend to like creator expert. Certainly the new Fiat, which I'm looking at now, just out of camera
gorgeous,
here.
It's a gorgeous looking model, isn't it?
Very nice, yes. Technic as well. And I also dabble in GBC, Great Ball Contraption.
Right.
So that's something that I do quite a lot and display those in the UK and Europe. So at the moment I'm experimenting with their new educational robotic system, Spike Prime. I don't know if you've come across that,
I've heard of, yes.
Which is quite interesting actually, and yes, so tend to be the technical side, I suppose, is what interests me. And
you mentioned there you sort of get out to some shows around. Do you get out to sort of shows? Do you do many a year? You know,
I do. Probably last year I was quite busy. I think I did 7 or 8 in the UK, and then 1 or 2 Denmark last year, and Italy as well. So
is that right?
Obviously, being in the UK, Europe is nice and close, so we can get out to those shows quite easily.
Excellent. So, and how do they compare around the world? You know, much of a muchness, do you think?
Yes, there are small scale shows, in church halls and that sort of thing, which are quite different to the international events where people come from all over the world. The big event in Skærbæk, near Billund in Denmark, there is the the highlight of the year, really, where people come from all over the world, New Zealand, Australia, everywhere.
Yes.
So that's always a nice melting pot of apples for.
Of course. So let's have a look at some of these sets that we're in the Blok's collection here. Anything that sort of sits out and inspires you?
Here, in fact, this whole shelf really. The Weetabix Castle was free with a breakfast cereal in the UK, I believe, in 1970, I think it was.
Is that right?
Which I would have been, I could give my age away now, but I would have been 7 at that time, and I'm pretty sure I had the set. Probably still got the pieces somewhere, but I've not seen it made up for some years.
Is that right?
I think mine probably got a bit yellowed being on the windowsill for too long.
Yes, as they do.
But it's quite interesting because it doesn't have a set number, and I don't think it came in a box that had any picture or anything on it. So
is that right? It was just given away with the cereal.
That's right. Yes.
Was it something you had to collect the tokens? Because I lived in the UK for many years, so I remember those sorts of things.
Yeah, tokens on the back of cereal packets. That's what it was, wasn't it? Weetabix, in fact, and the ones next to it here were later, 1976. I can see there, which. I don't think I had those actually. No, but,
so another one you've picked out here is the Technic shuttle.
Yes, Technic shuttle from 1996, I believe, which would have been just after my emergence from Dark Ages, and I do remember building that set. If I remember, it was quite a difficult one to build at the time. It was very complicated, and
it definitely looks it.
Yes, it uses a fibre optic lighting system, which only appeared in a couple of sets, and I've heard subsequently that it actually cost Lego more to buy than they were making from the set. So it was ridiculous, and didn't last long. But yes, and that particular example is in very nice condition because mine has yellowed, even though I've not had it on display in the sun or anything. A lot of the Technic beams have gone yellow, but this one actually looks very nice, so it's good to see that in original condition.
So here we are in the vintage room, if you like.
That's right, yes.
What's sticking out to you in here?
Yes, this is... well, here is a very interesting thing because it's the only religious building that Lego has ever made, a church from 1957. Goodness, so that's quite old then, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
But, yeah, a nice built example there, and also the bricks in the box, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
And underneath it, forerunner to Technic, the old gear system, that again the mid-70s, I think that one, which was just when I was a kid, and I do remember having those and adding movement and motion to my models at the time, which was
the old 4.5 volt. Yeah. And I see we're here where it all started, like you say, for Brickset. Is it with these types of sets?
That's right. These were available in Shell petrol garages around the world, but not everywhere. There were a couple of big sets as well, a big Ferrari, and I think there was a girl's Bell Bill set or something like that. But yes, it was really the likes of this promotional set that encouraged me to build Brickset, really, because there wasn't a lot of information about where you could buy these things, but people were after that information, so put Brickset together to bring that information into one place.
They're such charming little sets as well, aren't they? Yeah,
they are, yes. Nowadays they'd probably be packed in poly bags, but at the time they were in little boxes like that, and they are really quite cute. And reading the signage here is quite interesting. I didn't realise that these ones at the front here don't have Shell logos on them, 1999 those ones. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
Still says the Shell name and emblem is used with permission, but it's not actually on there, is it? Which is
very interesting. I see you've spotted the Galador section of the collection here.
I have. Much derided theme, and I can see why actually looking at these. And the examples on the shelf here, I think, are actually interesting because they were the versions that was Happy Meals. I think they came in these particular ones, which don't like Lego at all. There's no connectivity or anything on there. They're just action figures, really, aren't they? And,
they are,
pretty cheap and nasty at that. But, even worse than the packaged ones, of which there's an example behind us.
No, fair enough.
I haven't seen those before, so quite interesting to see those. Yeah.
Oh. So look, thank you very much for talking to us. I really, really appreciate you taking the time, and I hope you do enjoy the rest of your holiday here in New Zealand.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Excellent. Take care.
I look forward to seeing the video.
Yeah, I'll get it to you soon. Don't worry. Cheers.